Formula One is back. The preseason tests were held on the weekend in Bahrain. And the next time we will see Formula One cars on a racetrack, it will be for the first race of the season. But yeah, the preseason tests were from Friday to Sunday, and I will give a short recap of the preseason tests. But first, let's talk about the weather. On Friday morning, the weather was actually quite fine, but then on Friday evening, a huge sandstorm hit Bahrain, and the whole track was covered in sand, as you can see. But over the next few days, Saturday was a really sunny day, but with strong wind, as was the Sunday, but Sunday had less wind than the Saturday. So yeah, that was the weather in Bahrain, slightly different than we normally have in Barcelona. And now we come to our first team, which is Mercedes. Yeah, Mercedes. Where do we start? We can definitely say this has been one of the worst preseason tests, if not the worst preseason test of Mercedes over the last couple of years. And it started off really badly on Friday. As Valtteri Bottas went out for one of the first laps of preseason testing, they found out that he had a gearbox problem. So the Mercedes only achieved about 9 laps in the morning session, when others, like Red Bull, their rivals, achieved around 60 laps in that session. And on Friday evening, Lewis Hamilton was struggling with the Mercedes car too, wasn't really finding the groove, and he was also having some problems on Saturday, spinning the car into the gravel. But then Mercedes was slowly building up, getting into the rhythm, getting the program done. But they ended preseason testing with the lowest amount of laps with 304, and they have definitely a lot of work to do if they want to come to the first race of the season in 2 weeks and try to win the race. And now we come to a team that started preseason testing strong, but then fell behind, and that's Aston Martin. Aston Martin are the team with the second least amount of laps, 314 laps for the Aston Martin team. The Friday morning started strong with Sebastian Vettel being in the car, their new driver. Lance Stroll took over for the afternoon, but then Saturday morning is when the first problems came. Sebastian Vettel had a gearbox problem on Saturday morning, could only run for around 10 laps with Lance Stroll in the afternoon. Lance Stroll took over for Saturday morning, did a lot of long runs, did some race simulations there, as did Sebastian Vettel in the afternoon. But Sebastian Vettel, with 1.5 hours to go in the afternoon session of the last preseason test, he had an engine issue and had to sit out. So Aston Martin, and especially Sebastian Vettel, not having the best test. Sebastian Vettel said he's not yet there with the car. He still needs to learn a lot. So yeah, still a lot to learn for Sebastian Vettel to be comfortable in the Aston Martin for the first race of the season. But with his experience, I definitely think he can turn that around. And now to a team that actually had a really silent preseason test, but a really good one, without any problems, and that is McLaren. McLaren achieved a whole 327 laps, which is not the best, but as I said, McLaren didn't endure any problems over the whole 3 days, over the whole 6 sessions. They were running without problems with their new man, Daniel Ricciardo, in the car, and Lando Norris. They were also a bit focusing more on long run pace, but also going into the short run pace, but not setting the eye-catching lap times. But that's what McLaren normally do. Also, last year they were quite quiet in preseason tests, but you can feel the confidence in that team, and you can just see that that car is something special, and they have something special up their sleeve, and they're definitely confident going to the first race of the season, and that was definitely a great test for McLaren. Now to the team that, in my opinion, had the best preseason test over the last years, and that is Red Bull. Even though they only achieved 369 laps, which is not the most, and not the team with the most amount of laps, but the tests were definitely great. Max Verstappen was being comfortable in the car. They didn't have a lot of issues except one spin of Max Verstappen and this weird engine cover blow, as you can see here, as the engine cover just flew off of Sergio Perez's car. But other than that, not many things that slow them down over the 3 days of preseason testing, and a good amount of laps. And you can see that the Red Bull team is confident. They were lacking a bit with their rear end of the car last year, and that problem seemed to be ironed out. Max Verstappen saying he's the best prepared he has ever been to a Formula One season. So Red Bull is definitely up strong. But can they take the fight to Mercedes for this year's championship? As Sergio Perez said, it's not important where you start in Bahrain, it's important where you finish the year in Abu Dhabi. And now to a team that weirdly ran 3 drivers over the 3 days. A test driver, Roy Nissany, in the car, in Friday, Nicholas Latifi in the car on Saturday, and our man George Russell in the car on Sunday. And Williams had actually a really quiet test, but they had a lot of laps. Nicholas Latifi has done over 100 laps. George Russell, I think, had over 150 laps. In the end, they had 373 laps. But they didn't have the eye-catching pace or the eye-catching time. Although George Russell's lap on the last day of preseason testing, I think he went up to P6, was definitely a great lap. But yes, again, Williams, quiet test, but still, they said they've done their work. They're confident. The car is definitely better than the year before, so they have confidence in that team. So yeah, quiet test, but they definitely had a great test, the Williams team. And now to a team that said they won't develop their car after the first race, which is Haas. And Haas ended up preseason testing with actually a great amount of laps, with 394 laps between Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. They were running almost trouble-free. Mick Schumacher had a gearbox problem on the first morning of preseason testing, only getting 15 laps in on that day, but on the other 2 days, getting more than 80 laps in, as did Nikita Mazepin. And although the season is basically over for Haas, is hopeless, it's actually good for the young boys, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin, to gain some experience, to then, in 2022, finally start achieving great results and pushing for greater results with that team. And Günther Steiner even said he was surprised how well prepared Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin came to the preseason test. So all in all, a great preseason test for Haas, but basically a test that was not important for them since they're not developing the car for 2021 and shifting their focus fully to 2022 with their new regulations coming in. And now to a new rebranded team and old driver coming back, the Alpine team, and Fernando Alonso with Esteban Ocon. And they had a hell of a great test. A lot of mileage. They ran a lot of mileage, again without any problems. That Renault engine giving them the reliability they so dearly wanted over the years. They achieved 396 laps. They focused mainly on long runs and runs on the harder tire compound. But Fernando Alonso looking comfortable in the car. When you look at his onboards, he hits every apex in every corner in every lap continuously. So he did not lose any of his speed. And Esteban Ocon, obviously, he's still a young driver. He's learning every year, but you can see how big of a driver he's always getting year on and year on. So quiet test from Alpine without the eye-catching times or the big lap times. But as I said, they were focusing on the long run pace. But for that, they did a really good job, and that was a great preseason test for the Alpine team. And now to a team that did not have a great 2020. We can definitely say that, and that is Scuderia Ferrari. They have a new driver in Carlos Sainz, and they started preseason testing really good, mostly without any problems, except Charles Leclerc had a small engine failure at the end of the first morning session, but that only cost him 10 minutes. But Carlos Sainz still not feeling comfortable with the car. You can see he's not yet feeling comfortable with the Ferrari type of car, having a few spins. This is one of them. He had 2 more over the course of preseason testing. But all in all, considering what Ferrari did, they had a great preseason test. They were the team with the 3rd most amount of laps. And normally Ferrari is not a team that has done the most amount of laps or a big amount of laps. But they have done it this time definitely with 404 laps over the 3 days. And as I said, yes, they also had some eye-catching lap times, especially Charles Leclerc's lap in the morning session of day 3 on the medium tires. It was a 130.2, I think, but that was definitely eye-catching. But they were also concentrating on a lot of long runs. But as I said, Carlos Sainz doesn't feel too comfortable with the car yet, but that will come over time. But this preseason test was great from Ferrari, and Ferrari is looking strong for the first time in a few years. And we can actually say for the first time in a few years, or actually comparing to last year, that Ferrari had a great preseason test, and they can be optimistic going into 2021 that they will close the gap to the top again. And now AlphaTauri, who actually finished the preseason test with the most amount of laps shared with Alfa Romeo. They both have 422 laps, and that preseason test for AlphaTauri was definitely great and eye-catching. Great preseason test. 422 laps. That is a hell of a lot of laps. Great job from AlphaTauri. They, though, still had a few problems Friday, the afternoon session, Yuki Tsunoda had a small problem, and then Saturday morning, Yuki Tsunoda almost had a problem on everyone. He said it was very stressful dealing with the problems, but then Sunday was really, really smooth for AlphaTauri. I think Gasly achieved around 80 laps in the morning session, which is a lot for only 4 hours for the morning session. So great preseason test from AlphaTauri. They can be definitely optimistic going into 2021. They have a great car underneath of them, and Yuki Tsunoda posted the second fastest time of preseason testing. Obviously, yes, you say don't look too much into the times of preseason testing. You don't know if people are sandbagging, you don't know what engine modes and fuel loads they're running. But he set the second fastest time of preseason testing, just behind Max Verstappen, who set the fastest time of preseason testing. But that is definitely a great job from AlphaTauri. And now to the final team, Alfa Romeo, who also achieved 422 laps. And they, as mostly all the other teams, had a really, really quiet preseason test. You didn't really hear much of them. Yes, they are confident, they're optimistic. They say their car has taken a big step forward. They have a new nose this year. But they have Kimi Raikkonen, the veteran, and Antonio Giovinazzi in their car, both giving positive feedback, both driving a lot of laps. Kimi Raikkonen on the last day of preseason testing, getting over 150 laps in. So a lot of mileage for Alfa Romeo to work with. And ironically, the Ferrari engine was actually the engine that had the most mileage out of any engine at the end of preseason testing. So that's great for them. Alfa Romeo, I think, also were focusing more on long run pace than short run pace because they didn't have the eye-catching lap times, or they just struggle a bit with short run pace, although Kimi Raikkonen finished in P4 on the final day. But yeah, quiet test for Alfa Romeo, but they can definitely be optimistic going into 2021 as almost most of the teams. This is the classification of the final day. Obviously, yes, as I said, please don't take too much note of lap times and preseason testing. Yes, obviously there can be some eye-catching lap times, as the lap of Leclerc, as I explained before, and obviously the lap of Max Verstappen, who did that lap on the C4 tire. Yuki Tsunoda did it on a faster tire on the C5, as did Lewis Hamilton. So you can see Mercedes struggling a bit, but don't read too much into testing times because we just don't know what fuel loads they're running, what engine modes they're running, what programs they did. But all in all, we can say Mercedes did not have a great test. Are they really struggling? Are they sandbagging? I think you can feel when Mercedes are sandbagging, but this time I definitely think it was not sandbagging. They are having problems. Can Red Bull give them the fight and run for the championship? Can McLaren capitalize on the strong preseason test that they have? Well, we will find our first answers in 2 weeks' time at the first race weekend of 2021 at the Bahrain Grand Prix, ironically. Please don't miss that. And this is it. That's a wrap for my preseason testing recap video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.